guys, and welcome to this episode of Within the Shadows. Of course, I'm Scarlet Raven. I am a psychic medium, a paranormal investigator, and always on a curiosity adventure. And this is my partner.
I'm Ikaika, the scientific skeptic and the non-dramatic opinion of everything.
What are you trying to say? I'm not dramatic, but I do have a dramatic episode for us.
Okay, what do we have in store?
My best friend, Bigfoot.
Cool.
So, guys, I'm excited about Bigfoot. The legends of Bigfoot go beyond recorded history all over the world, and also mainly in North America, especially in the Pacific Northwest. And you can hear tales of a 7-foot hairy man in the woods, occasionally scaring campers, lumberjacks, hikers, and anybody who's ever been near the woods. Now, North American settlers started reporting sightings during the late 1800s and into the 1900s with the occasional finding of footprints. That was one of the few ways that they were first noticing that there was something out there.
Something out there besides them and say your typical forest creatures like deer, bear, certain parts of the world, wolves, large cats, large felines like mountain lions and, cougars, I think we have in North America. There's so many animals out there.
There's even wild monkeys out here in Florida.
Really?
So it's a new adventure that we have to go on. I should have told you about this.
Of course. Well, I knew I was going to hear about it at some point in time.
But there's literally wild monkeys, and you can go to this one parking lot and hang out with them. So, I mean, there are monkeys.
Okay.
In the wild here.
So we have primates,
But honestly, if you think about it like the 1800s, early 1900s, and somebody comes across a giant footprint, what are they going to do?
Yeah. Run.
I mean, we're in the age of witch burning and so forth. So now there was a few sporadic sightings and obviously a few grainy photos and videos adding to the mystery. And those that claim to have seen Bigfoot, they describe everything from a large upright ape, which makes sense, to an actual hairy human. How would you like to go into the store for your bread and butter and say, there's a really hairy human out there that tried to eat me? I mean, you got to be brave, especially in that day and age, to say that.
Yeah, during that time, you're looking at, science isn't necessarily on everyone's mind. In this day and age, we have everyone's a scientist, are always wondering why, how, who, when, where, things like that. But back then, I think, you would imagine people are just trying to make their living, try to carve their niche, carve their portion out of, the world at that point in time. It's basically to the purest form of survival to especially if you're in the continental U.S. looking at, this mass expanse of woods and mountains and, high desert plains and all these places that you've never seen, basically the place is designed to kill you at that point. It's not as bad as, say, Africa.
Or Australia.
Or not Africa, but Australia. Stuff isn't flying at you from every direction, but you definitely have, untamed wilderness that is going to, one, raise your anxiety level, two, put you in that mental state of like, okay, I just have to survive tonight. I got to get through the day, survive the night, and do it all over again the next day.
These are all very grounded and very salt of the earth types of people at that time. We didn't work in office complexes then.
Yeah.
We didn't work telecommute from home, so it definitely was a little jarring. Now, they also were saying that they would stand over 8 feet tall and just powerfully built. So it's like this hairy, stinky man, muscle builder monkey thing. That has to be jarring. I mean, it's obviously jarring to us today when there are sightings. Now, the debate and research, as you're saying, it continues from this, even from then. It's continued, it's blossomed. You'll see all the TV shows and everything. And entire organizations actually exist to study and document Bigfoot, prove its existence, and groups regularly go out and search the Pacific Northwest woods, basically looking for that ultimate proof, that groundbreaking, this is it. Because they're like, this is going to happen. And we've seen some of the shows where they've done it. Now, in one very real sense, however, and this is kind of a funny thing, but it's serious, Bigfoot does exist. For sure. We know this.
Yes.
Western Air Defense Sector of Washington Air National Guard, as you know, I'm from Washington, adopted the mascot of a Bigfoot and operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, monitoring the skies of about 73% of the United States and Canada, actually. Just like the Bigfoot legend, the sector is rarely seen and rarely heard, but rest assured it does continue to observe, and if necessary, it serves as a messenger of warning to anybody who's trying to be squirrely or flex.
Gotcha.
I mean, growing up there, I never saw any of them except for when they were parked.
Yeah.
When I went to a thing at the base.
Yeah, I was completely unaware of it, this group being, actually functioning, just because that's what they do. That's their gig.
Yeah, they literally go watch over everything everywhere and just kind of make sure everybody's in line, behaving.
Gotcha. So, that's good to know. At least somebody's out there watching,
right? And not in
hopefully
a creepy,
in
a weird way.
Yeah, in a good way, not a creepy, weird through the window kind of way.
Now, with that, it's kind of funny that they have that whole crew called Bigfoot. They're watching over that much land, that many states, that much area.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been something concrete. They got an eagle eye. Because honestly, there's so many different regions that have Bigfoot. There's so many different regions that have different, and you can tell me a better way to word this, different takes on it. So like skunk ape is commonly described as a bipedal ape-like creature. He's approximately about 5 to 7 feet tall and covered in mottled reddish-brown hair. The skunk ape is often reported to be smaller in stature than the traditional descriptions of Bigfoot. I mean, before they were saying they were around 8 feet or more?
Yeah, 7 to 8 feet.
Yeah, and now 5 to 7 for this guy. And then the area that the skunk ape is typically in is northern U.S. and Canada, and it's named because of its foul odor, which actually is similar to a skunk, and that's what you hear about out here in Florida is the skunk ape.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the humidity out here whatsoever.
I mean, you might be a little smelly because of the humidity.
So looking at regional areas, let's kind of go back real quick and look at, original sightings in the Pacific Northwest, the western parts of Canada, potentially central Canada. And you're talking about one, at that point in time, if Bigfoot, a large bipedal creature, 7 to 8 feet tall, for anyone's reference, is roughly the size of a standard size room, the height of a standard size room. You got your vaulted ceilings and things like that, but a standard room is going to be roughly around 8 feet tall, which might seem not as tall, but you also have to consider too, back in the day, humans in general weren't that tall to start. Humans grew taller over time. So, not necessarily in the sense of like, say, a Napoleon complex where people were short, but people were shorter back in the day. So we're talking about a large animal that towers over them, and depending on where they saw it, when they saw it, the potential level of inebriation when they saw it, so many different factors are involved. But for the most part, when you think about, early American settlers and pioneers making their way across the U.S. to, stake their fortune or whatever, they're going to be looking at things a little bit differently. So that with the 7 to 8 foot tall might have been actually a little bit shorter, just, as a speculative kind of thing. And then now we talk about, known in certain region as a skunk ape. Now, it's been said that there's always been an odor that has accompanied, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and things like that. Only to when it comes down to, say, the skunk ape, that's when the odor actually becomes a lot more prevalent. It's in the name.
Yeah.
And then he comes up shorter. A skunk ape is known to be shorter. Think about it like that is like, well,
small smelly guy.
if he's a smelly guy, he's not going to really be able to sneak up on too much stuff to hunt. He's always got to be downwind from his prey. Yeah, right? Downwind from his prey to actually capture it, or maybe he only ate fish because that's the only thing he could actually catch. Skunk apes. Exactly. Skunk apes are, at least, looking into it, are usually near bodies of water, along riverbanks. And I believe was in Oklahoma that they were referred to as skunk apes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe parts of Arkansas,
Florida,
Florida.
Georgia, I think.
Yeah, so southern areas.
The stinky.
The stinky southern areas are going to reference him as skunk ape. There's so many other. There's ape man. There's stink ape or stink. There's so many different names for it. Basically,
it's almost kind of like slang when it comes to the skunk ape, because like stink ape, all of that has the same physical similarities and size.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's smelly, so it's whatever kind of slang term they want to use in that community, in that area.
Exactly.
You look at New York and then you look at Florida. We both have our own different languages.
Exactly. Yeah. Local. Dialect, regional dialect. Things lore translated differently over the years is gonna. But for the most part, you're gonna stick to. Okay, that is that. This is this. Indigenous Native Americans named it Sasquatch. Wherever Yeti came from Tibet, I believe it was.
Yes.
Or in that Asian region, Yeti was their name for it. Which we'll go over. But yeah, I like to think of the skunk ape was like, well, if he's smaller, he's probably not doing too well at the party, and so. He's smaller, he's shorter, and he's stinky. So he's not doing too well. So he's just got to make it through the world on his own, making it happen. I don't even want to think about how the mating ritual goes.
Ew. You get those like swimmy nose plug things,
right?
They wear those.
It's
in my mouth. It's in my mouth.
Two acorns. In the nose, plugged up, done. I'm good.
We can smell it. It's skunk ape mating season.
Yeah, if it gets extra stinky, it might be.
Close the windows. It's skunk ape. If you visit somebody in any of these states and they're like, just keep the windows closed because it's skunk ape mating season.
No, not to go during that time.
Be sure to ask the hotel when you call them. Is it skunk ape mating time?
Right. If they answer you back, not to stay there.
Right. They're like, oh, it always is. Be like, oh, it's stinky.
Yeah, right.
So you mentioned Yeti. I wanted to talk about Yeti a little bit because Yeti is often described as being a large bipedal ape-like creature. Okay, that sounds normal. That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, every other Bigfoot thing out there. He's covered with brown, gray, or white hair, but you usually see him depicted as white.
Yeah, white or gray, usually in more snow-covered regions of the world.
And sometimes they depict him as having very large, sharp teeth. It's like Yeti is portrayed so much more aggressive right off the bat and everything, and in your face and bloodthirsty and gonna rip you limb from limb. And I guess maybe he's just a little grumpy because it's cold. Probably.
And with a region, colder, snowbound regions, you're not going to have as much vegetation.
He's hangry.
Basically, yeah. You're not going to have as much vegetation, so the diet will consist mainly of other animals. Fish. We can get into the whole fish thing if say the river or stream isn't frozen, or maybe that's the way they catch things. Who knows?
I mean, maybe ice fishes, like, they're big enough to be able to punch a hole in the ice.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like we can ice fish. I'm sure they can.
Yeah, I'm sure they've, over time, just like regular, Homo sapiens moving from ape to Neanderthal to humans, they had to develop over time. Now, with the amount of time that a large bipedal creature like Bigfoot, Yeti has been around, you would think they would have developed, tool construction, something of that sort. Quick going back to say Bigfoot or Sasquatch in more wooded areas, people have been known to find large, kind of like really rudimentary, lean-to kind of structures of trees. And we're not just talking, I found a few branches and I did this. It's like full-blown trees, like knocked down and created into like this simple A-frame situation. I was gonna say,
it always seems to be like an A shape, or leaning against some trees, or like if there's a block of bushes or something that's kind of thick, it can lean against there. Sometimes.
Working with the environment that you have.
The ground nest, remember that? There's a couple of them that found like these little areas where they made kind of a little cave out of twigs and brown stuff.
Yeah. Nature.
Yeah. Not dramatic, okay, whatever.
But, so now that Yeti living in a snowbound, snowy, colder, temperate climates, he's going to have to find some type of shelter, and that's not going to be fun. Cold, dig into, do a snow cave, like burrow into the snow bank, find an actual cave, and sustain himself on more protein-based, animal diet, whatever's out there. Say, we went over fish,
foxes,
whatever is within the region.
Maybe
deer,
they're eating snowy owls.
Yeah, there's always going to be some type of cloven hoof type animal, like a deer or ox or anything like that. So obviously he's going to adapt to his environment and his diet, strengthening canine teeth, things like that, not so much of an omnivore but complete carnivore. So you're going to get a more angry looking, aggressive animal. Tracking a deer across any type of terrain, you have to be aggressive. You have to be quiet, and you also have to be aggressive. Where, say, Bigfoot, Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest region of the continental U.S., you're going to have, berries, other, there might be mushrooms that are edible for them. You're going to have a lot more of veggies available.
Well, I mean, even like the moss and stuff that grows in the forests out there.
Mm-hmm.
You got that. You got, raccoons. You got all sorts of critters. Yeah. Squirrels,
that are, somewhat easy to catch over, say, a deer.
Pretty good size.
Yeah. And, have the menu's a lot more vast in the Pacific Northwest, where in snowy regions, you're limited to, meat and potatoes, literally.
I literally came up with another reason why poor Yeti is in such a grumpy mood.
What's that?
Well, one, he doesn't like humans. That's why he lives way out in the top of the mountain. So he's already just like, no, I don't human.
He's antisocial.
Yeah, he's antisocial. I mean, a lot of us don't people. Sometimes it's too people-y out there. It's too people-y, he eats a person. Less people-y.
Right.
So, but humor me here. You don't want to put your butt in the snow when you have to poop.
I was going off of, hey, there's some random hikers. They got lost and they got mutilated. It's like a frozen TV dinner. They just showed up.
Frozen TV dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, oh, I'm so cold, and here comes, I'm gonna camp out for the night because I'm trying to. We've been watching these things on Everest and how people ascend Everest. And it's like, oh, they got to camp out overnight. Yeti's just, if he plays his cards right, he's going to set up on a mountain that everyone's all gung-ho about, wants to get their Instagram pictures on, and be like, oh, we're going to camp for the night. He's like, hey, it's delivery. It's not DiGiorno, it's delivery.
They're taking a selfie and Yeti's all.
Yeah, he's in the background being like,
Yummy.
I'm going to eat you.
And nobody knows because, well.
Because they're not paying attention. They're like, oh, make sure I get my, make sure I got my filter right. I turned my face right for the good filter.
Make sure I
But yeah.
double chin.
So, throughout the world, there's always going to be a large animal. You can base it on, hey, let's keep the kids safe so they don't go into the jungle, they don't go into the forest, they don't go to an area that, children shouldn't be in. So adults probably got the same treatment over and over, years and years, as communities developed in all far reaches of the world. Now, you never hear about say a Yeti or a large animal in, say, like Egypt, which could be a completely different topic or a completely different day.
Yeah, it's hot to be hairy here.
It's hot to be hairy, but at least you got some shade.
Yeah.
There's some shade out here.
I mean, maybe this like sand fleas. They got sand flea. They don't.
Yeah,
like
right.
Sand.
They
don't like the sand in their hair.
Yeah, right. They had to shed their hair, and because they don't want sand fleas.
Are they having coochie lip problems in Egypt?
More than likely, yes. It is damn hot.
Fuck coochie. Coochie lips. So, okay, now...
This podcast is rated for mature audiences only.
That's why it says explicit.
Right. So, that's another story for another time, but dealing with these regions, mountainous regions, but I mean, there's parts of Egypt, parts of, South Africa, or not, Africa, South Africa, all those places. They're wild, they're dense, but they're also dry, they're arid. You've got every type of environment within Africa as a whole itself. Mm-hmm. So, without looking at a map, it's going to be either dry and hot or muggy and wet.
Yeah.
It's still hot. Still going to go on that whole hot theme. But, Yeti being where his location is in these places.
Has to poop in the snow.
Poop in the snow. And he might be taking care of, the annoying Instagram backpackers.
You know what he's listening to? Their tents go...
Yeah, that's what annoys
all night
him.
In the wind. He's like, you know what? You come up here with your tents, you think you're cool, and you're fancy in your little North Face gear.
Yeah.
But all it does is make noise all night, and I can't sleep.
Right.
I can't hear my meditation sounds with this tent going on.
Right.
Okay, so the last one I want to cover, because there are so many, is just the general Bigfoot.
So we're talking about continental North America.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this is run-of-the-mill. Anyone says Bigfoot, you see any Bigfoot, like, memorabilia or anything, this is what you're gonna see. And this is, like, broad shoulders, no real visible neck. He's definitely very trunkish.
Mm-hmm.
Long arms, so the big, long kind of monkey arms.
Okay.
And skeptics like to misidentify as a bear standing up.
Now, that's where, if you've seen a bear actually stand up, which I haven't personally, but...
At the Montana thing.
Did he stand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was way back, though.
Oh, well. I was just looking at the bears that are, within 6 feet of my person.
Playing like little puppies.
Playing, but, things, it's like, it's like a jack-in-a-box. It can go off at any time. But if you've ever seen a bear stand up, they're not necessarily broad-shouldered. They're kind of just, they look dumpy. Mm-hmm. They look like a bowling pin from the head down. And head, shoulders kind of slouched inward because of, their skeletal makeup. And, tapering.
Rex arms.
Yeah, tapering wider at the legs to just keep themselves
It's kind of like a ferret
balanced.
when you see the videos of the ferret standing up.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't have a whole lot of shoulders. So that, as a Well, you just saw a bear standing up. That excuse, I got to throw that out the window, because it's like, okay, well, there's a bear standing up. Now, if it raised its arms and hands, yes, it's going to be a lot more, or I shouldn't say arms, but it's,
Well,
yeah.
they got arms.
Yeah, legs.
Arms and paws.
Arms and paws, okay.
I mean, you can call them legs, but I call them arms.
Okay, arms. So
Frontal
arms.
legs.
Yeah, front legs. There you go.
Front arm, leg
Yeah.
things.
They're raised up, and it's, in an ominous position of like, boo, basically, but he's growling. Okay, I can see that being scary.
Boo, bitch.
But any man of the forest, any hunter, especially in earlier days when people were foraging for food, not just they didn't have a farm, but they had to forage for food in forests. Wilderness people, pioneers,
Fishermen.
even fishermen, backpackers. Everybody knows what a bear sounds like. If you spend any time in nature, more than a casual weekend here and there, you're gonna know the things that are around you. And in early times and things like that, you're looking at, okay, well, we know what a bear sounds like.
And bears honestly are quite quiet. You have to really push to hear them.
Yeah, they got to get...
They're kind of like pigs, where they'll kind of grunt when they walk around, but they're not real vocal unless they have to like actually scare you away.
Yeah.
And that's usually when they have babies.
Yeah, exactly.
They're trying to scare everybody away. But more times than not, and this is from living in Pacific Northwest and even Colorado, there'd be bears in town.
Yeah.
But they go up trees, and they'll take their babies up trees, and they're more evasive.
Yes. They're more scared of you than you are of them.
Yeah.
And
they'll mess you up, but
yeah, you get close enough.
You start humanizing them, where they get into food. Just like Colorado, they would break into cars and homes and literally go to the refrigerator. There's one video, it opened the refrigerator with its paw.
Yeah.
Whoop, and started eating.
And he got himself a beer.
I mean,
it's a Colorado bear, of course. It went for the beer.
But, I mean, it literally walked in, went straight for the refrigerator, knew how to open it, and wasn't like, climbed at it. It just, boop,
yeah,
ate a few things and then walked out.
Got a midnight snack.
Like,
it's my cheat day.
Okay.
But yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I can see how people would say, oh, well, you just saw this, but it's like, that's even a stretch for me, because it's, like you said, just the shape, everything. And let's talk about their eyes, because in some of these sightings, it says they had glowing yellow or red eyes. Now, we have a thing called eye shine with animals. Nighttime sightings are a little different. Obviously, you're not going to see as much.
Yeah.
Now, there have been sightings where they have stated that the creature's eyes actually glowed yellow or red, which is interesting to me. The only thing is, eye shine is not present in humans or any other known actual apes or type of monkey. They don't have the cones and so forth. So the proposed explanations for eye shine is owls, raccoons, possums in the foliage. You can't really tell what it is, but you see eyes. There's eyes out there. Well, there's so many critters. I mean, there's literally undiscovered animals in every single state.
Yes.
In my eyes, it's kind of like the ocean.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten near it, so there's still gonna be something that nobody knows what it is. And yeah, I get, but to me, it's almost like, okay, but you look at the spacing, you look at things like that. But I guess, what do you say on that? Because if humans and apes don't have that type of a cone structure to really have that, why would Bigfoot's eyes do that? Because Bigfoot is, in our opinions, what everybody has said is basically monkey-human mix.
Yeah.
So I'm confused by that.
I would say that, the phrase, you're a product of your environment, would play to that, in the sense that you have a bipedal large creature moving through for in the case of Bigfoot, because he's the one that comes up with, the red or the yellow eyes.
Yeah, it's always Bigfoot.
Yeah, Yeti doesn't need it because his eyes are probably
his
squinted enough. Well, we're talking about eyes here. Squinted enough, to see, so he doesn't go snow blind. So, the light refracting off of the snow at any given time. So he's not going to look too much like he's got red eyes. He might.
I mean, he may have hair poofs around his eyes to protect him.
Exactly.
Kind of like sunglasses, because, not like there's a store up there to grab them.
Right. And then you're going to have, the black fur around it over time. It's developed over time. So, over time, as, a Bigfoot species in itself has learned to adapt and survive, maybe he's develop that eye shine. Maybe he's, his eyes have to be more acute to light, movement, his environment around him, one for basic survival, so he can eat.
I mean, he's living in the middle of nowhere, usually by himself, and it's not just because he's big and stinky doesn't mean there's nothing bigger and stinkier or craftier. I mean, he has to be alert that the raccoons will come steal his treats.
Right.
Because raccoons steal shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, there's so many things. It's really interesting to me.
So Bigfoot as a species needed to adapt to his environment, to be a better hunter-gatherer, to survive, to, proliferate as a species. And that's a drive for everybody. You adapt to your climate, you adapt to your environment. Just like any, sentient mammal being, you're always going to adapt,
And it's so quickly you forget, like you think about the farm communities in the United States, and you look at the size and the build of those people. Even now, you see that they're like, nope, that's farm boy strong right there.
Exactly, yes.
That's farm boy right there. Because, and it's nothing that anything's bad. It's just that you see that they're built for literally what their family has done for centuries.
Yes.
That's in the DNA. The body has literally been tuned to that. Now, let's get to the good stuff.
Okay.
Experiences. Now, you're the skeptic. So, I grew up in Seattle. So, I was just absolutely immersed in this. And this was before I met you. There's definitely more than one time that I heard large tree cracking or knocking. And I guess you could explain it as both, because you would hear little breaks, or you would hear like large knocks, like almost like a rock or something was pounded on a tree. And it was out in the middle of nowhere, and even, of course, it's in the daylight. I'm not going to be out in the woods at night by myself. And you just hear this jarring noise come out of nowhere. And I would see tons of the little A-frame things, the little houses, the little nests. I never saw any footprints. But honestly, I think just like they said there's so many teams out there, that if there's ever a footprint, it's probably found very quickly by those teams that are looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think coming across the actual footprint is...
That would be, to me, that would be a firm indicator of, the presence of a large mammal.
Who do you call? Do you call the cops and say, I found a big-ass footprint that belongs to a Bigfoot? Or, like... you literally sit by it and be like, okay, somebody down where you have internet has to look up the Bigfoot research people, call them, tell them where I'm at to get here before I die of starvation because I'm sitting right by the Bigfoot thing and I don't want it to get dark because I don't want to get eaten.
Right.
Like, who do you call?
I'm sure the first thing is going to be either the police, and then they'll probably direct you to somebody else.
They'll probably be like, and it's another Bigfoot.
Yeah, another Bigfoot. So we had an experience in Colorado when we got together. We went up to an area called Slaughterhouse Gulch. Not the greatest name, but it was definitely a little bit farther off the beaten path, still within range of, some civilization. But we took a drive up there to go Bigfooting, and it was my first time. And it was, once we got to a decent area, flat area,
And
some
it was
trees.
dark.
It was extremely dark.
We went at night, of course.
Yeah.
I think we got up there around like 11 or so.
Was it 11? Okay.
I think so.
So it was definitely late. I don't think there wasn't a whole lot of moonlight. I was armed just in case. And
I had a rock.
yeah. We start hearing a lot of animal noises, like more than normal, more than you think it would be.
Super chatty.
Yeah,
The
everyone's...
forest was really alive.
Yeah, like, they probably are like, hey, somebody's here. So you're hearing birds.
Like even almost like squirrels chirping kind of sounds.
Chittering.
Yeah.
Smaller mammals chittering.
I'm
And
sure
then...
part of that was a raccoon and marmots.
Yeah. And so we get up there and it's loud. It's louder than I've experienced the forest during the day in other parts of Colorado. So that seemed a little interesting.
What's creepier, the loud forest or a quiet forest?
A loud forest.
Yeah.
For me, a loud forest is creepier because you're inundated by sound. Where in a quiet forest, you can act, and if something that is actually coming for you, you can hear it. You can directionally hear it.
I mean, in a loud forest, at least there's animals and things that have survived that aren't getting mass murdered or anything.
Correct, but
I'm not dramatic at all.
No, not at all. But those animals still have to cohabitate within their given area. So yeah, the fox might be after the mouse, but they play that cat and mouse game as they're designed to, but they're still in the same area. They still have to cohabitate. But yeah, a loud forest, it's always been, I don't want to say unnerving, but it is unnerving because you don't know what is around you per se, especially at night.
Well, then I got the idea of, hey, let's just get out of the truck.
Yes.
I found a rock. I was willing and ready to protect. I was going to protect you, I promise.
Right.
And we're like, hey, I have a great idea. Let's do some calls. So I think I did one and you did one and really didn't get anything. And then all of a sudden there was like a loud crack or something, kind of almost like kitty corner to us. And we just looked at each other like, yep, we're done.
Yeah.
We literally got in the truck and drove down the hill and went home.
Yeah, drove probably a good hour and 15 from home to this space.
It was a quiet ride home at first.
Yeah. And all within about, 10 minutes?
Yeah. We didn't make it very long.
Yeah, we didn't stay that long. And I'll say that's my fault because I don't like to not know where I'm at.
It was scary.
Yeah, it was
you're
dark.
in the dark, in the middle of nowhere. These are woods that people could just be in and you not even see them and know they're in there. They could be living in the woods. There's mine shafts, and there could be anybody in these woods. There could be crazy mountain men growing their weed that are going to protect it, or crazy marmots eating the weed and getting high. Who knows?
Yeah,
So any noise, we were like, nope, let's go back down. Where there's city, there's light.
Yeah. I don't think we even had a forest. Or forest. I don't think we even had a flashlight.
No, I don't think so.
No, we didn't have a flashlight.
That was so prepared.
We went so unprepared it wasn't even funny. And
fly by the seat of your pants investigations.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, let's give this a shot. And now this area where Slaughterhouse Gulch is in Colorado, just southwest-ish of Denver Metro, it's known for being a kind of Bigfoot hotspot. So that's why we decided to head up there. And they have a museum.
Yeah, I went to that one time when we had friends visiting.
We went to that, and I was like, okay. And I don't necessarily prescribe to that style of thinking of animals, the hokey gifts and things like that. Yeah, the fandom, the cheese fandom. I'm all about the research. The Bigfoot Museum, I don't remember its exact name. It's out towards Santa Cruz. Those guys are holding it down with a lot of science, a lot of research. There is the atypical Bigfoot statue thing that you can take a picture with, which is great. It's good to initiate the uninitiated, to bring in the people that are curious about it. That's, the first thing is like you hear about Bigfoot. Oh, wow, what is this? And then if you want to, those guys provide a ton of information. They've got maps, they've got terrain, terrain maps, topography maps, pinpoints, areas where they get together to do, all types of research. And, these are the guys, kind of pseudo mountain men looking guys, but that they've seen them, they've experienced them, and they've, at least the guys that are running this place have dedicated themselves to the research.
Now, my question, they got all that stuff. Do they have we like to go to those museums of science and stuff like that. Science. And they have all the interactive stuff. So they have a little box you can open to smell a Bigfoot?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure at least that
or does their Bigfoot statue have a little air freshener, like a wall air freshener that goes psh, every couple minutes?
No, but I'm sure the bathroom behind the facility has a good reminiscent odor of Bigfoot.
So if we go there, I'm going to ask them, where can I smell Bigfoot? And if they say the bathroom, I quit.
The dude behind the counter is going to raise his arm and be like, check it out, honey.
Ew.
Now, recently I would consider, a somewhat experience. We'll consider it a somewhat experience. We're now living in the Florida area, the Tampa Bay area, and I decided to go out and mountain bike towards, inland central Florida. And there is a number of phosphate mines within this area. The Lithia area, as it's properly known as. Very dense, excuse me, I don't want to say very dense woods, but a woods that you could walk through, but definitely you can see where it gets a lot more dense through the trees. So you've got this ground coverage. Now, there are larger mammals within the Florida area, and as we know, there is a stink ape, or at least the local name for a Bigfoot type creature.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, the local Bigfoot. The country Bigfoot. So I was aware of that, and I'm riding my bike, and I'm pedaling, I'm huffing and puffing, the bike's clicking freewheel. I heard an extremely loud crack, like a tree got broken in half. Now, scientifically, I look at this. Now, there are large mammals and also large reptiles in the area. I would never think an alligator would be able to do that unless, say it flopped into the water. But you never really see an alligator flop into the water, like
they just
belly
glide.
flop. Yeah, they kind of glide in.
They have a nice little death glide before they come eat you.
Yeah.
I mean, the only flopping is if they have prey, sometimes they'll slam it around, but you know what that sounds like.
Yeah.
So, because you've owned reptiles before.
Yeah.
So, you know what that sounds like, and it's more than just one. It's repeated.
Yeah, it's repeated. We weren't near any body of water where most alligators would hang out, and then you'd obviously hear the splashing if it did actually catch something. Deers don't make that noise. Deers are damn near silent unless they're running through brush. Anything else, as far as say like a big cat or anything like that, I wouldn't think that. So, it wasn't a break in the canopy. It was definitely ground level, a just loud cracking sound, and that's over me huffing and puffing, my bike making noise, it freewheeling, and I was like, okay, this is very odd for the area that I'm in, or that doesn't sound like anybody else. And there's other people on the trail, few and far between. The area was extremely populated with people, with bikes, people whooping it up. So it was like, okay, is he coming in to check it out because he hears people whooping? Or, if this is a Bigfoot stink ape situation, why would he be here? What is he checking out? Did somebody leave a power bar somewhere and he's like, score, And it just felt really odd. And we actually went there today and I heard a few things, but not as loud.
Yeah, I was more trying not to die, so I didn't hear anything. Because he tried, did you hear that? I'm like, I'm just trying not to die. That's all. Because I'm still learning how to ride a bike. And honestly, I can see, they have I don't remember what they call them, but the little pools.
Yeah, those are the pits.
Yeah, so they have these little pits that filled with water, and it said they have game fish in them. Mm-hmm. So there's food source right there.
Food source,
water source right there. And there are parts of this area that it looks like Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when you look out and oh God, what were they? The claw dinosaurs.
Oh, the Velociraptor.
So, the claw dinosaurs, when they're and all you see is a bush moving, and then they bounce out. Like, there's areas that look like that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not extremely wooded, densely wooded, but it's not bad bush.
No, but there's areas where all of a sudden there's all this coverage. He could literally stay under those bushes and stuff, be crashed out sleeping, because everybody's supposed to stay on a trail to preserve the land, which is great. And we didn't see anybody that went off trail.
Yeah, no one really goes off trail.
They stay on trail, which is amazing.
Yes.
So you have a place to go ride mountain bikes, but you also have this respect still. But did you smell anything?
No.
Maybe he was little and he wasn't stinky yet.
And I think it was far enough out from me that, one, it wouldn't catch any type of scent, and two, it was actually quite still.
Because your sense of smell is on it.
Yes, unfortunately.
So, maybe he was younger and he was curious. And he was kind of like, ooh, what's going on? Maybe.
It definitely felt like a distance. But yeah, with the area being populated as it was, you've got loud bikes, with a bike freewheeling, people huffing and puffing, people whooping it up, definitely making a lot of noises that don't necessarily sound scary.
Well, and bikes aren't quiet when they shift, even.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got, these noises drawing curious, creatures in. It definitely was a loud crack, but it was far off. I would say at least probably like 30 yards. So a good 90 to 100 feet away.
Not that I'm an expert, but I am from, Seattle. So I'm kind of, genetically an expert. It's like that area just feels like it could be a perfect area. So, I mean, honestly, you're not going to say it was. I'll say it was.
Yeah.
He's Husky.
And we only stuck to some mild trails where there's actually more hills and valleys. They're man-made over time, but there's a lot of hills and valleys on the other parts of the park that can be a good hidey hole place for a large bipedal creature.
And now, obviously, let's focus on the fact you even had like GPS on your phone to track our ride. So with all this technology, why can't we get footage of him that's quality? I mean, people are getting shots, but it's always
grainy, blurry
government cover-up type pictures,
yeah.
Like the Hellboy stuff
exactly.
in the movie. It's just like, so with all this high-tech stuff, I mean, we didn't even have reception out there for a lot of the time, which was so nice.
Yes.
It was a nice break. But you still were able to use this app.
Yes.
Use satellites to track you, and we have all these fancy, really nice, super awesome cameras in our pocket.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I have questions for is, this is 21st century. We have a plethora of technical devices in the palm of our hand, on our person at any given time. There's people that freak out when their phone isn't in the same room as them. So with the amount of, and not just your phone. So say a researcher goes out and they've got cameras, they've got night vision, they've got, drones, they've got all this stuff. How does no one to this day and age have a clear cut, Facebook quality photo, Facebook profile photo
Yep.
of any of these guys?
How your science has failed us.
Well, why?
How many people did I freaking see today with their GoPro mounted on their bicycle helmet?
Yeah, exactly. You've got
Hey, cool, you do you, whatever. You need that in your life. I mean, I'd rather stick it to the tortoise while it walks around the forest.
right. So you have all this technology constantly filming, and with the guys with the GoPro and the action cam strapped to their chest or their helmet or their bike, the bike's moving so fast they're not going to see anything. Mm-hmm. But research teams, I gotta say, what are we missing? Did we forget to push hit the shutter button?
Forget to wipe the lens off?
Wipe the lens. And what am I missing? What is there? And that leads us to a conversation that I've had with a friend, and it has been discussed in certain forums, and there's a ton of shows about all this stuff, but talking about it straight up, no filter, no edits, no nothing like that. Is Bigfoot potentially an interdimensional creature? Because 1 or 2 footprints, gone. A quick sighting, and then it's gone. It was moving through the forest silently, quietly. You couldn't, something of that size running through a forest is going to make noise.
Make footprints. I mean, they have the few footage, and we don't watch a lot of the shows because they're so...
cheese.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, now this is like hokey B-movie stuff. Would you get the actors on Craigslist?
Yeah, right. They build it up. There's been some decent ones.
Yeah.
And the caught or the...
But they're the more science-based ones. And
yes.
Like there was one of them we saw where somebody had footage and it was in an open field. Remember that one? It was like there was a forest behind it, but there was an open field and it showed Bigfoot running. And then all of a sudden he's gone. And it's like, how does that happen? This is a big open field. It's not like he stood behind a tree or said, "Oop, there's a rock. I'm going to duck back there."
Yeah.
Peekaboo. Like there's that. But also, I do the paranormal investigating. Obviously, you do it with me. Some of this equipment could totally be used.
Mm-hmm.
And you really don't see them using equipment like this. Because it's like, think about it. Blinky lights, sounds, weird stuff. They're going to go over, pick it up, and you're like, oh, over there,
Yeah.
Like, everybody puts all these trail cams up, but they never get anything. Everybody puts all this up, and they never get anything. So, can we figure it out a different way? Or are we just not meant to know because he is interdimensional?
That's when you start dealing with the idea of Bigfoot being interdimensional, an interdimensional being. One, there has to be some type of science behind it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if we were talking about, a portal, what's at the end of our street again? A vortex?
Oh, vortex, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about vortex in the sense of something that is a doorway, a passageway from one dimension to another, potentially
one time to another.
Yeah. Now that obviously involves science.
Mm-hmm.
So if going on the theory that Bigfoot is an interdimensional creature, why is it coming here? Why does it have the temperament that it does, you know, and, you know, I'm sure that someone much smarter than both of us can explain that, but just looking at it in a layman's term, this is all based on layman's,
yeah, it's just,
you know, understanding.
People would go at like 11:30 at night and then run away 10
and then run
minutes
away.
later.
But, you know, with that being said, it's like, okay, it's an interdimensional creature. He moves through a vortex. Is he aware of the vortex? He has to be, because that's how he disappears. You know, I know here at this broken log covered in moss that there's a vortex. So it obviously has to be intelligent to some degree. We're not saying he's going to write, you know, a Nobel Prize winning theory, but at least he can, you know, he can keep himself upright. And so that's where, with all the technology involved in this day and age, why is there not a photo? Why is there more, you know, they catch the footprints. Like, they only catch one or two footprints, you know, and maybe he's figured out, you know, a Bigfoot creature has figured out, well, maybe I shouldn't walk in the soft sand at the side of a river.
Well, also you have, you know, back in the day, Native Americans, hunters, everything, they had to learn how to track with like an animal too.
Okay.
So they had to learn to walk on certain areas of the ground so that it didn't leave footprints or sound, or, you know, maybe something like that is going on. But we have the Bigfoot squadron basically covering 3/4 of the US and some of Canada. They're getting a bird's eye view with probably better technology than we even know exists. Have they seen it?
I would almost say that they have, but they're not going to say anything.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because that's how they get their funding.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they have to have that air of mystery for them to be like, oh, you know, to continue it on.
Yeah, like I get there's, you know, threats of war, threats of whatever, but is the threat really that bad that they need to constantly be surveilling?
You know,
I don't know. You know?
And then that's definitely a question for, again, smarter people.
Yeah, I mean, we got Russia up there by Alaska, and I know sometimes the fishing boats will have to get on the Russians and tell them to back off because they actually crossed.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to make sure that they have to make sure if they get drifted into Russian waters, then
yeah, hey, we're here, you're there, you know, where's the line? But yeah, you know, dealing with that that's the real question. You know, those are the real questions. Okay, we're pretty much for sure that there is a large creature out there, whatever it's going to be called.
Bigfoot. General Bigfoot.
Yeah, large bipedal creature, covered in hair.
Slightly smelly.
You know, slightly smelly, you know, not the best temperament. But why do we not have pictures of it with all the technology around us? Then the technology, or at least the footage and the evidence, got to use the big word, those big $5 words. The evidence is it, you know, it's grainy, it's blurry, it's, you know.
I think I'm just going to refer to it as the Hellboy photo.
Yeah.
It's a Hellboy photo.
And, you know, the footage that they do have, it's inconclusive because of those reasons. It's grainy, it's blurry, but then it obviously, you know, the footage you're mainly focusing on is like, it just disappears. There has to be more than just a bipedal creature.
And I seen it with my own eyes. It just literally, boop, gone. You're like...
Yeah, it disappeared. Now...
Unless he, you know, like, ducked and maybe he's a glitch in the I don't know.
The glitch in the Matrix.
You know, like maybe he ducked and for whatever reason somebody moved the camera and you had matrixing in the camera so you didn't catch it or what. I mean, there's so many things. Like, I'll believe anything.
Yeah. And like going back to those trail cams too, it's like those are, you know, those are high quality cameras with, you know, good night vision capabilities.
Yeah, triggered by any movement.
Filming, you know, and these things are weatherproof. You know, if you've ever done that type of hunting, you know, you're investing in a large amount of money into these trail cams.
Well, I see them as they're like, the trail cams are basically like the giant Ring doorbell cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
So like ours will pick up bugs.
Oh yeah.
And lizard, and then our little zombie whirligig.
Mm-hmm.
If he starts to spin.
Yeah, and there's enough ambient light within the photos, or at least within the footage, that you can actually kind of see what it is.
Yeah.
Why we're not capturing anything is beyond me. So.
And these trail cameras cost a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that they're built to be more precise. And
yeah, it's not the camera on your phone, which is obviously very good.
Yeah.
But the device of a trail cam, a high-end trail cam, is dedicated solely to taking.
I haven't ever looked at the prices. I don't think I want to.
No, I mean, yeah.
Whoa.
I don't get those catalogs anymore.
I don't get those. No. So I mean, we could literally just go on and on about this, and obviously, we want to know if you guys have had any sightings or hearings. Is that what we?
Sightings, experiences,
hearings of Bigfoot.
You heard it.
I heard it.
Did you seen it?
I seen it.
I heard it, and I smelled it.
And then I seen it. But in all seriousness, yeah, comment. Let us know. Message us, whatever. We would love to hear the story about what you experienced, where and how you experienced it, and maybe we can put together a little map if we get enough people that
it'd be
sightings.
Fun. It'd be fun to see what experiences people have. We can go over it in an episode. But be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Be sure to check out our Facebook page. We have a page or group. We have a group within the shadows, and also Instagram and or YouTube as well. We'll have all those links in the description somewhere and below.
Thank you again, you guys. We really appreciate you watching, listening, and all of that. We will see you guys in the Facebook group and on the next episode.